Hi, Carol here from Al's Quilters, and we're cutting it up with Carol. Today we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about blades. I know in an earlier video we did a little bit with blades, but today I want to go through them a little bit more in depth. So let's start by talking about the standard blade. Brother has color coded their blades and their mats, which kind of give you an idea of what each of the mats can do, which we did talk about in an earlier video. It's going to be things that don't require a lot of the tackiness with the mats. So paper is perfect. Paper is perfect for the standard cut blade. You can also do the vinyls if you don't have a newer model that has a vinyl blade. You can also do foils and things like that. The standard blade can also be used with other mats, but it just depends, I guess. We talked about how sticky our mats are, and so if you've demoted a standard mat down to a low tack mat, it's not that you can't use these blades on different mats. It's just what you're cutting and how much it needs to stick onto the mat that you're using. But the standard blade can go through just about anything that you're going to be cutting. Even with the older models, the standard, you can cut the fabric with it. But you would need your fabric support sheet. Then we have the standard mat and the deep cut blade. And these are color coded with the purple. And again, this gives you an idea of what it is that you can cut with your mat and this blade. So the deep cut is going to go through anything that is up to 2 millimeters. So you can cut your corks and thicker vinyls, thicker paper, so anything that is going to be a little bit thicker, that you need that deep penetrating cut, is going to be good for the deep cut blade. All of these have their own unique holder, of course, and not all of the holders are going to work on every model. So most of these that I'm talking about are with the DX models, but the standard and it's been a long time since I've used the other earlier models. I know the earlier models come with the standard blade, but it may be a different holder. So make sure you check to make sure that what you're buying will fit your machine. Then the newest blades that have come out for the DX models only are the fabric. So again, color coded. The fabrics are in the gold, and we love Brother for coming up with this, because those fabric support sheets were really a pain in the you-know-what. They're hard to get the pressing sheet on, and then your machine would cut through them and you'd have to press them on again. So in their infinite wisdom, they did come out with the fabric mat. And with the fabric mat, they do need to use a fabric blade. This is the thin blade, which is great for basic cottons and batiks. If you're going to do anything thicker, you would want to test it, in terms of corduroy and leather. You're definitely going to want to use either the deep or the standard blade. So definitely do some testing if you go beyond your basic cottons, but this is basically for your cottons. Then they came out with the vinyl auto blade, and unfortunately the holder is on back order, so I don't have an example of that. But the vinyl blade, my customers are telling me, are a real game changer. They really do cut the vinyl very, very well and very smoothly, And so if you have a lot of vinyl that you're cutting, definitely invest in a vinyl blade. And then the newest one, this is just the cutest thing on earth. I just can't get over it. It's a teeny tiny little rotary cutter, and I feel like it's like a little rotary cutter for a fairy, but it is named the rotary cutter blade, and because it does look like a rotary cutter. This one I again have not been able to try out because the holders are on back order. But hopefully maybe there are areas out there that do have them. The rotary cutter is meant for the fabrics that the fabric blade is not going to be good for. So it's your weaker fabrics. It's your flannels and your wool. Even they're saying that you can do silk and chiffon and those kind of flimsy, not as sturdy as your basic cottons are going to be. So the advantage to the rotary cutter blade is most of the blades are, if you kind of think of it as your rotary cutter as opposed to cutting things with an X-Acto knife, because the X-Acto knife is very similar to what these blades look like. So when you're cutting your starch fabric and you're using an X-Acto knife, you're digging and dragging it, which is fine because it's a stiff, hard fabric. If you try to do that with, let's say, a flannel, the disastrous effects that's going to have. It's going to drag, and it's just not going to cut, and it's just going to make a mess. And if you've ever tried cutting flannel on your scan and cut, you have probably said, like I have, never again. So they came up with the rotary cutter, which, as our rotary cutters do, they just glide across the surface of the fabric while they're cutting. And so that's the sort of the idea of they're not really digging and dragging, they're gliding on top of those weaker fabrics. And so I can't wait to get our holders so I can give this a try, but the theory behind it makes sense to me. If you do a lot of that kind of cutting, then invest in one of these. They're just absolutely adorable. So if nothing else, you can put it on as a display. It's a little fairy rotary cutter. Sorry, I digress. I get excited about all these things. So those are the blades that are available for the Brother Scan and Cut. And as these videos go along, we will be doing projects where we will be using the different blades.